Hey guys, I was originally planning to do my review of the film Serenity today. I was planning it all week, and then something came up. Not something in my personal life, but rather an announcement from DC Comics came up, and I thought, well, I really want to do a video talking about this, so I have two options. I could go ahead and do my Serenity review now, and then hold off this video for next week when people aren't going to care as much, or I could go ahead and do the video now, which will be roughly 2 days after this announcement came out, and then I can just postpone my Serenity review for next week. So that's what I'm going to do. I know that I was so close to finishing off Firefly and all that was related to Firefly, but one more week isn't going to hurt too much. So anyway, the announcement. It has recently been announced that in September of 2014, DC Comics is going to be attempting to do another big, huge event. It seems like September is their month to do this. A couple years ago, they rebooted their entire franchise with the New 52, and then this September of 2013, they did something called Villains Month, which I have not been reading, and so next year, in 2014, they are going to do something called 5 Years Later, and for 1 month, every comic book at DC will jump forward 5 years in time, and we will get to see what the future looks like. We are not sure if this is the permanent future that DC will then be working towards. I assume it's not, because DC lately has had trouble sticking to a singular plan, so I kind of doubt that they are going to be working towards this future after this month is over, but we will see. Anyway, after this 1 month, everything will go back to being in the present day, but there will be a weekly series set 5 years in the future that further explores this future timeline. And we don't really know who will be writing this weekly series because several names have been bandied around, and then a few of those names have come out and said, no, we're not working on it. So I'm not entirely sure who is going to be working on this weekly, but that doesn't matter. At this point, I want to turn this video into a missed opportunities type video. If you haven't seen one of these before, usually I am sitting in front of a camera when I do these kinds of videos, but today I am talking to you through audio only. Anyway, if it was up to me, if I was in charge of DC Comics and somehow this idea of doing the 5 years later thing was dropped in my lap, I would have done it differently. Instead of this only being a 1 month thing and then it being in a weekly comic all by itself, I would have had this be a permanent thing. Instead of just 1 month, I would have had the 5 years later thing just happen. Just jump forward 5 years in time, and then instead of trying to salvage what to me seems to be a pretty broken franchise, just softly reboot everything. You're jumping forward 5 years in time, then you can kind of fix what hasn't really worked so far in the New 52. Now, of course, the people at DC Comics, they are not going to admit that a lot of what they've been doing hasn't really worked, but we the fans know differently. We know that creators have been having a really hard time working on titles because editorial will say, hey, you need to do this, and then when the creator starts to do it, then editorial will come and say, no, you're doing it wrong, you need to do this. And this has caused many creators to leave the books they were on or be replaced on the books that they were on not long after they were put on those books. Basically, everything is being handled in the absolute worst way possible. Jumping forward 5 years in time would be a tremendous way to fix all of this. You don't like the way Wonder Woman is being handled now? Jump forward 5 years in the future and Wonder Woman can be handled in an entirely different way. Now, it's entirely possible that DC Comics has lost fans permanently because of the New 52. I feel like, though, people who have said that they are no longer going to read DC Comics as long as the New 52 thing is going on, they might be tempted to come back if DC did something like this. You could really just get rid of anything that's not working at this point, create brand new status quos for some characters, you could do brand new status quos for all characters, and then whatever doesn't work, you can slowly get it back to the way it should be. I feel like this would be the best way to bring people into DC and keep them at DC. The New 52, when it first started, it brought in a whole bunch of people for like 2 months, and then a lot of those people dropped the books because it just wasn't working and DC didn't really have a cohesive plan to go forward with. So what would I be doing specifically? Well, these are some ideas that just came to me at the very top of my head. I did not really have any time at all to work these out. I just jotted some stuff down. If it was up to me, this is what I would do for DC's 5-year later mission thing. Batman is a fugitive. Even Dick Grayson and Tim Drake do not know where he is, but rumors abound that Batman still patrols, but on the move instead of in a central location like Gotham City. Now there are 2 teams of Teen Titans. One team that is in their early 20s age group, and the other team is a few years younger. This would be kind of like in the late 90s when we had the Titans team who were in their 20s and the Young Justice team who were teenagers. You would have a kind of big brother, big sister program going on where the superheroes are kind of training younger superheroes. Both of these teams would basically resemble the most popular versions of the Teen Titans. One of the problems I had with the New 52 version of the Titans was that over half of the team were characters that I did not recognize, and the characters I was supposed to know, like Robin, Superboy, Kid Flash, and Wonder Girl, those characters were so incredibly different from the way we knew them from before that I felt no real reason to read this series. This would be a really great way to kind of get these characters back to the way that the fans know them as, so you could really do some fun things, get people to actually care about the Teen Titans again. Number 3, the Justice League is now working closer with the government as superpowered ambassadors to other nations. This is a twist on the JLI team of the 1980s, though I would not want this to be an attempt to be funny because I truly don't think that they could pull off funny. This would not be a Black Ops team, but many of the members who you usually think of as being core members would not be a part of this group simply because they do not consider themselves government employees. For example, Superman definitely would not be part of this group. Wonder Woman might, as she's already something of an ambassador. Green Lantern wouldn't have a problem with the group, but he would be too busy in space dealing with problems with the Corps, so he would not be a regular member of this team. Wonder Woman is now the leader of the Amazons, who have been displaced and scattered across the world since the destruction of Themyscira by Darkseid's forces. Superboy is now filling in for Superman in Metropolis, but he is having trouble keeping up with the daily routine that was so simple for Clark Kent. Speaking of Clark Kent, nobody knows where he is right now. Now, like I said, this was basically just a rough draft of some ideas that I came up with. If you're going to softly relaunch the entire DC universe, you don't want to go too far in one direction. I'm seeing a lot of people reporting on this online, and they are suggesting that this is going to greatly resemble Alan Moore's Twilight of the Superheroes pitch from the 1980s. I personally wouldn't take it that far. I would have this be kind of a cross between a whoa, everything is different kind of story, and also have it be just sane enough that you can tell stories with it. If you're doing something where Superman has gone insane and has married Wonder Woman and they have kids who are psychotic, which is sort of like what was going on with the Twilight of the Superheroes pitch, you're not going to be able to tell very many stories with that kind of status quo. I would want this to be just different enough to pique the interest of people who are hearing about this, but it still needs to be grounded in the DC universe as we know it enough so that you can still continue to tell stories for a long time to come. I'm really curious, what do you guys think of this? Would you prefer it to go down more like I am explaining here, or do you have any problems at all with the way DC is doing it? I may be one of the only people you know who has a problem with DC, but I know I've been seeing a lot of people who say they really don't like the way DC does things now, so maybe you're one of those people. If you are, I encourage you to like this video, share, comment, and subscribe. Do all of those things you love doing on YouTube videos. In the meantime, I will see you guys tomorrow with another kind of video, and I will be back next week to review Serenity, the film. So look forward to that. In the meantime, I'll catch you guys later. Have a great day.